Hazoodles, 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 Hazoodles. I see you in the chat. Hazoodles account review. Hazoodles account review. Let me see here. You said, forgot one slide, 355 days into the account. Okay, so about 1 year played. Let's take a look. This is looking really good, right? So Triple S Eden, that's great. Triple S Raven. Triple S Fervent Tempo. Very important to note. Triple S Fervent Tempo is still good for most content. Especially if you're not, you know, if you're Red Lotus, Nirvana bouncing, you know, Fervent Tempo is still very viable. Even this week in Memorial Arena, quite a lot of people are still using Fervent Tempo on Shadow Knight, the double S fight. Okay, so double S Pardo, I'd like to see this to triple S. Carol, Fischl, Fallen Rosemary, I'd like to see all three of these eventually farm to triple S. I think Fallen Rosemary is still important to farm to triple S. You might already have her at SS2 or something. Starlight Astrologos, not as high... Ah, nice. Okay. Hazoodles. Not as high priority as we would used to recommend in the past, but I still think maybe once you finish everything else and then all that's left is Starlight Astrologos and Dark Bolt Jonian, then you would maybe farm her to triple S. Haxor Bunny, I think double S is fine for now. And then once you start farming Jade Knight, you can kind of slow down on Haxor Bunny. I think until you get your Jade Knight to double S, there might be 1 or 2 instances where Haxor Bunny, you might utilize her if you have full gear. You might need her for the freeze trauma and whatnot. Drive Kometa, double S is fine. You can finish her to triple S at your leisure for, you know, completionists, but it's not that big of a deal. I think Lightning Empress, you should still get to triple S for the shared leader skill and whatnot, but also for Gold Witch Orb farming. S0, H2O, that's fine. Dea Ancora. S0 is passable, right? If you have full gear with S0, it's passable. Definitely double S is a sweet quality of life improvement, and SS1 even more so. I think S1 also was like a significant break point, but not like as big as S2 and double S, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Something to do with the SP regen? I can't quite remember exactly. One of those skills about using ult giving SP regen. Oh, I can click on the rank up button, right? S1 is a nice damage boost. S2 is a big break point because you want that SP regen. And then S3 for the leader skill for your Equinox, and then double S for just all sorts of quality of life. Okay. It's, you know, whatever you have the budget for between now and what else you need to acquire from Battle Pass. Because you might still need an extra Turgenev piece here or there or whatnot. So I'll leave that up to you. But ask questions, you know, get a second opinion before you commit to this. If you're S1 right now, I think S3 would be a nice breakpoint just for the shared leader skill with Equinox. If you have Equinox, we'll see here in a second. And then otherwise, I would just leave it alone. Maybe try for S2 just so that when you're actually running bosses with Dea Ancora, it'll be a smoother experience. Stygian Nymph, she's got stamps in the Gold Witch Orb shop, so eventually you could push her to double S if you also pick up Stygian Nymph from the option box in 6.1. There's a Dorm bonus there. I think it goes from 3% to 4% for physical. And then, because right now I'm at S2 from the stamps. And I'll be picking up the option box. And I'll be getting S2. Or double S, rather. I'll be getting double S. So in your case, what you can do is, like, once you get your Lightning Empress to triple S, just every week you buy 1 or 2 extra Lightning Empress fragments with willpowers, and then you trade those out for Gold Witch Orbs. So then you slowly build your Gold Witch Orb stockpile, and then you buy Stygian Nymph stamps that way. Yeah. 4%, right? 4% at double S. So, but having her at S rank is 3%. doesn't sound that big by itself, but once you add in all your other physical dorm buffs, you know, suddenly it goes. Suddenly it might be a difference of 10 to 12%, you know. Uh, let's see here. Spina, HS, AE. So for Spina, you should be able to get S2 from the Elysian Realm stamps, and then maybe later on down the road, depending on your budget, you might try to go for double S. But if you don't want to spend any more, I think S2 is fine. We haven't had a lot of Spina fights lately, so it's not a big rush. AE S1 S1 is that weird one trick that you want to have for the fire tank, but other than fire tank, you're not really using the S1 talent that often. There might be one or two other fights where the S1 talent comes up, but S2 is nice for the extra breach, and then double S for the extra SP. Double S for AE also gives extra fire. You were contemplating S1 AE at one point. I at this point, if you're not topping up for stamps and other rank up stuff for AE, I would just wait until she becomes farmable. CH, don't worry about it right now. I mean, you can farm CH in the far future, but I don't think she's worth prioritizing farming. Vermilion Knight, you can slow farm to double S later. Or just hard farm to double S later, but she's got Dorm buffs. Silverwing's nice quality of life for ice, but now with Hersher Elysia, there's only a handful of fights that you're really going to be using Silverwing for. At least at the top end, but you can always bring her out for any fights that you want to just run her on for fun. Hersher of Reason, also good to have. Double S will be the new standard for her. A lot of players are probably going to be in that S1 zone now, too, for HOR. So I would say only farm HOR after your FR and your Sushang are done. I know that sounds weird because Sushang kind of like, you want to have HOR ready alongside Sushang. But I feel like at S0 and S2, you can still cope decently. Flame Scion, she's still really solid on all the other side fire stages. We haven't gotten a lot of her bosses as often. We did have Fire Tank a few times in the last 2 patches, right? Just not as often as we would have expected. For MA, she's kind of lost tank to MPE, but it also depends, right? Having her in your roster means you do have that additional option if there's an overlap where you need to run HS on a different boss. So having the roster flexibility is nice. Triple S VG, great. Triple S Blueberry, great. Getting your 8 ranks to Triple S is great in general, just because you get more Witch Orbs that way. There's no rush though, because nowadays we're not using Swallowtail or Umbral Rose like in the past. So Phoenix at double S is nice to see. You know, you get your Dorm buffs, you get your leader skill for AE. You can run the triple support memes on firesides if you want to. The rest of your A ranks you'll eventually rank up slowly. You can just pick one and choose. Same thing with your B ranks. Make sure you're buying your B rank fragments from Logistics Terminal. That way, you know, the sooner they get to triple S, the sooner you can farm Witch Orbs for coin. You are a little bit low on coin, though. So if you do find yourself low on coin, don't be afraid to farm some expeditions that are strictly just coin-based. MA only? Not necessarily. She's still quite good on quite a few of the side stages. Having Dea Ancora does make it more comfortable, giving you more options for the fire stages. But there's still a few fire stages where I feel like this past cycle, right? The fire stage was a mechanical one. Having Flame Scion just trivializes those side stages. Yeah. H2 took MPE's spot on tank now. I think that was only if you had Vilvi, Yumikus, because we had tank along with Cosma, right? So if you didn't have MPE for Cosma, you would run Vilvi Wasn't it that week? What was it that we had last time? Cosma BKE. What was the tank cycle? Did I not upload that? New Hephaestus. Helmaru ranged. Where's the... Oh, we had Heimdall. No, we had Hephaestus. That's why we couldn't run MPE. Well, that's why we couldn't run H2O, because we had Hephaestus that last cycle. So we had Hephaestus. It was another overlap. You would HT if you didn't MPE. $904. 904 is kind of disgusting. And this is one of the things that is like that's frustrating with how fast the power creep is right now, Yumiku's. Like, we should never be seeing that high of a score on a triple S fight, but all the old triple S fights have already been basically obsoleted with all the new stuff that came out this year. Keep in mind now, we've already had a year of triple S bosses, right? Triple S started after Flame Scion, and we're already a year past Flame Scion. So all the triple S fights that we had in the first 6 months of triple S, they've already been solved super hard. And even some of the recent ones like Bright Knight has been solved super hard. Yeah, on-demand time fracture with 2 time stops on a Valkyrie. It's insane. I don't know if it's healthy for the game at this point anymore. Like, it was cool when it was first introduced. Anyways, back to Hazoodles' account. Make sure you triple S Griseo after Pardo's triple S. Absolutely get Griseo to triple S when you can. FPS scam. Yeah, FPS scum. Yeah. All right. Argent Knight, don't worry about unless you really like her as a character. The rest of your A ranks, you'll eventually triple S, so don't worry about that. Shadow Knight, I would put on a lower farming priority after HOR, but higher than CH. At double S, she does provide the shared leader skill for HS, but also the lightning bonus. So there's a reason that you still want Shadow Knight to double S. If during a spending event you find yourself ending up buying the S rank fragments, I think S rank fragments in those cases usually will go towards battle suits that are farmed with legacies over willpowers, just because legacies are a little bit harder to come by still. Yeah. All right, the A ranks you can kind of pick and choose at your leisure. HOV. HOV is also with legacies. I would say HOV right now and for your account would probably be behind HOR, right? So it'd be behind HOR and SK. Unless you really specifically want to focus on physical Dorn buffs, in which case you might prioritize HOV before SK. But again, she's legacies, so you would farm Fallen Rosemary, MPE, Sushang, definitely Sushang. I would say that after Sushang's release, after unlocking Sushang, your priority would be like Sushang 6 fragments and then FR 2 to 6 fragments depending on your weekly legacies. And then the rest of the A ranks, maybe Sakano Rondo getting to at least S or double S would be a nice convenience thing. But we haven't seen Rhymestar in a while. All right, Priarms. Priarms. All right, so 65 Falcon Flare is nice. Seven Thunders. Okay, so one of every major element. Ooh. Damn. Okay, so I think your Acheron. I'm hesitant to say for you to finish it, even though you're so close, because technically Stygian Nymph isn't really being used that much. I will say, though, you have a triple S Fervent Tempo, and I don't see you having Sleeper's Dream. I kind of wish that it was Sleeper's Dream at 60 rather than Acheron. I'm also hesitant to advise you to Priarm Sleeper's Dream at this point, just because the goal is for you to eventually have Whispers of the Past. And Whispers of the Past will eventually just supersede Fervent Tempo. Yeah, that makes sense. I think maxing out your Domain of Sentience will be fine for Memorial Arena stuff. I think finishing your Cosmic Duality still makes sense in the current state of the game. I think Fallen Rosemary's weapon, Iris, is definitely important, especially if you don't have Vilvi and you don't have Nyx. I do see that you do have Nyx's weapon, though. I think these two weapons you don't pry ever at this point. Miracle Kissy Pillow you should max out. You do have Whispers. So that's the thing, right? You need to get your Whispers online. You need to get your MPE online sooner rather than later. I don't see MPE in your roster, so that is something that you'll need to schedule out. So you kind of got two choices. One is you just commit to Sleeper's Dream, which I don't think is a healthy decision. I don't think that's a safe decision because definitely not future proof. But for Red Lotus and Red Lotus bouncing to Nirvana, Fervent Tempo will be fine enough for most physical applications. It's not long term, but it can get you by, right? You can get by with it. Long term, you would eventually just run MPE with Max Whispers. It's a little late in the current state of the meta to be investing in that, so I don't lean towards it. I think Flame Scion's pistols should be Priarmed, but again, you're running into a situation where you could backlog it and you just work on it in a linear style with Taurus upgrades, but by the time you get to maxing it out, who knows, right? Flame Scion might be out of the meta. We might get another Fireside DPS for some reason. Or, opposite, we could get reverse power creep where we get a new fire support and now suddenly Flame Scion's super good. And then you're going to be wishing that you had the weapon maxed. So both things can happen. Okay, I will say though, with next patch's banners, I don't know what your budget's going to be, but I think if you can score Echoes of Paradise for Eden, that would be an excellent pickup. I think if you are free to play and if you've been sitting on your Crystallum, getting Turgenev top and bottom would be excellent. I think if you're not picking up Crusher, you can use Key of Reason as a stat stick on Haxor Bunny. I think Eye of Collapse will be very important on Haxor Bunny as well if you're needing to run an ice team against Cosma. I'd like to see one more Newt and one more May M. Eventually, maybe still get 3 Newts. I think 3 Newts for free-to-plays and just in general is still handy to have. But definitely get one more Newt at the minimum and one more May M at the minimum. JSTTM, that's great. Full Poe, full Margrave, full Benares. Benares you probably shouldn't use except in the instances where you need to run handle on Eden. And because you don't have Echoes of Paradise, you're probably in the situation like me where I'm still using Benares with full handle Eden because you just have to ult. Shakespeare Adrift, Zen Yi. Full Zen Yi is excellent to see. Himiko M. So yeah, so for next patch, you got a couple of options. Either try to full gear one of your existing DPS, which is risky because you never know like if you're gonna get the guarantee pieces that you're looking for. Committing to the Divine Key for HOR is a reliable one just because the Divine Key will be plus 10 attack, or you forego both those banners, forego the Sushang banner, and try to get echoes. It's kind of safe-ish. It's a 50-50. I mean, let's be honest. At this point, if you don't have the crystal count going into next patch, all the banners are kind of risky, but hopefully, if you decide you want to pull, you might get at least some of the important pieces. Okay, only Ragna M. I hope you didn't open your option box to get this Ragna M, because if you did, I'll be a little bit disappointed. The key for the option box is whenever a battlesuit is released with an option box gear, generally you want to save that option box for after you get 2 pieces from their gear banner. And the reason that is so it's easier to snipe a specific piece with an option box than having already opened the option box and hoping that you get the missing pieces from a gear banner. Yeah, I didn't know any better. Oh no. Oh no is right. So, regarding gear for Spina, what you can try to do here after is you can either build Thales TM if you're trying to build her out, or you just kind of ignore her for the time being, and you can just use, like, makeshift gear. I wouldn't overthink it too much for now. I would probably finish Handle set from Foundry. In terms of gear crafting, I would probably finish Handle and think about working on I would probably work on getting your G4 ice. Hi, Scissor. We're looking at Hazoodles' account. Sazan B, very good. Sazan B is very good to have. Okay, let's take a look here. So you have your Goemon ready to transmute to Handle as soon as you get the rest of your gear. Vil VM is very good as a support piece until you get your Tesla Band M later. It's not as good as Tesla Band, but it's also free. So it's very good that you have your Tesla Band M or your Vil VM leveled up. Okay, and you have Paganini M. You have Paganini 2-piece. So this is kind of nice. I would say that for your Foundry grinding list, I think Irene TB is something that you should add to the list for the far future, but it's not something you should farm right away. I think right away, I think Tesla Band and Beethoven sets would be more useful for you immediately. Having Tesla Band M, Beethoven M, both of those pieces would just have the immediate like a useful utility for you. I probably rate Beethoven M more urgently than Tesla Band M since you do have Vil V M. Now, that is after you finish Handle, right? Finish Handle, you got G4 Ice next patch. Those two would be top priority. Tesla Band and Beethoven would be after that. I think Irene... You can kind of work on Irene in the far future. I wouldn't put Irene as high priority because it's more about having more options than actually being, like, high performance. If you're focusing more so on Abyss, you might not need Irene that urgently. Now, if you have the Crystallum, I would say Turgenev top and bottom. Absolutely. Absolutely Turgenev top and bottom. I don't know. I don't think you included your... I don't think you included your gear inventory, your materials inventory here. So I don't know how much Crystallum you got. Yeah. Is it too far away to consider? It might be too far away to consider. That's gonna just be rough, needing to farm for G4 Elysia at this point. Yeah, I will keep asking for reduced fuel costs on surveys. I think that is still something that needs to be reworked. I feel like there's too much stuff that new players need to be looking to farm out of Foundry. Alright, so Hazoodles, I was saying that Beethoven and Tesla Band would probably be priority for your crafting after you finish Handle, and even though Elysia gear set is kind of like far away from Miss Pink Elf, I still think that as a physical set, it's still really solid. In the meantime, though, you can use Edgar Allan Poe Stigmata as a placeholder for all your charge attack characters. You'll lose out a little bit, but at least as a placeholder set, you can do that. Let's see what else. I think you should definitely lean in on all your elemental teams for most fights. And in most cases for physical right now, I would probably say definitely lean in more on your triple support team of like Carol, HS, and Griseo. Probably run HS lead or Griseo lead in that case. And that in that situation, like having more Candy main Newt would be really good. But also having like Beethoven MB with Tesla Band T, or you could just run Candy T in that case. So Thales TM I would probably also add to your Foundry list as a placeholder intermediate set that you can also eventually transmute into G3 Fire. If we are looking into the future and saying, okay, G4 Fire might eventually happen. I am a little bit concerned that I don't see G3 Ice on here, which means that if you do decide you want to build out Her Sure of Reason after getting the key, that process will also take a long time. And so you're caught. There's kind of a weird situation that your account might be in here. So if you are low budget or free to play, which it feels like you're leaning more towards free to play, Foundry is a long process, but it does not cost crystals. And everything that you are working towards in Foundry lets you put crystals towards actual modern stuff. So among the list of all the useful things out of Foundry, you kind of just pick a direction and go. Generally, I'll recommend that you work on the newer stuff, the more expensive stuff first. It's annoying to do so, but at least it gets you more immediate results for the time that you put into it, like your G4, Stigmata, etc. Uh, I highly I highly still feel like it's worth your time to slow farm all the other stuff out of Foundry. Again, just because it doesn't cost crystals. And it's something that you can work with throughout Red Lotus. Hazoodles, are you having any issues retaining Red Lotus? Or have you gotten to the point where you're starting to bounce into Nirvana? Okay, so no issues retaining Red Lotus. Okay. Well, that's good. I expect you to continue to maintain Red Lotus. Keep on farming crystals, keep on farming Foundry stuff. And yeah, now if you're dipping into Nirvana, now's the part where you're just kind of mostly growing your inventory, making sure your SP battle suits get ranked up and whatnot. Going forward, I would say that most of your existing S ranks only go out of your way if you really like that character to try to finish their sets. Otherwise, I think it'll be more crystal efficient to just use placeholder gear and then try to see eventually if you just get their gear from off rates while you're rolling for relevant stuff. Now, what would be relevant stuff? Any new support gear, any Divine Key banners. The Echoes of Eden banner, I think, would be very worthwhile in your case. I think, again, if you have the Crystallum, Turgenev top and bottom together as a two-piece set is high value for your account. You have JSTTM. I think if you do JSTTM with the Newt B, or if you craft an Irene B, that would be a solid pickup. Or JSTTM with a Cezanne B, if you have the time to learn that for your Pardophilus. Viable placeholders, I would not say that those are like ultra long-term gear, but like if you use that as a placeholder for maybe 6 months to a year's time, that's a okay placeholder. Okay, you're gonna buy the big BP. Remember, if you do decide you ever want to buy the Paladin Battle Pass, it is better to buy it at the beginning of a patch, because buying the Paladin Battle Pass early does affect how much of the extra weekly BP box that you get. Because if you don't buy Battle Pass every week, your box is only like 2,000 points. If you do buy the Battle Pass every week, that box is 3,000 points. Hey, Gunny. And yeah, Light, you're right. Nirvana is pain every so often, but it is fun. It's a good check on your. It's a good skill check for you as an individual player, especially when you're playing with low inventory. You're forced to play a lot of scuff strats. So then, apart from a few major optimizations, you're more at the mercy of just executing cleanly, because with lower gear, there's less tricks that you can pull off. So then you just have to play, more solid rotations that are just making the most of what you have. But it's not always comfortable. That's very much so. I think sniping echoes would make your life easier as far as lightning teams go, especially with Hersher of Thunder having a lot of coverage, thanks to, in part, due to being able to run echoes with Turgenev top and bottom on Eden. But yeah, finish your SP battle suits to triple S, farm your farmables. With willpower battle suits, a lot of it now is just for Dorm. I'd probably, in your case, save a lot of the physical battle suits for physical buffs till a little bit later. Just because right now, your ice team is probably the most put together, and then after the ice team is your lightning team. You did have full Ozlog though, right? Yes. Oh, Ozlog MB. Ozlog MB is workable, but I think if you can somehow manage to finish Ozlog's 3 set, that would actually make your make your Raven quite comfortable to play. So I'm guessing right now you'd probably play something along the lines of like Candy Top Oslog MB on Raven. Something along those lines just to get by. Or you can even if you are struggling with SP regen, and this won't really help your damage numbers, but you could mess around with like Zen Top, or even Paganini Top. Paganini will definitely not help your elemental, but both Zen Top and Paganini Top give you a little bit more SP regen on the top slot. So that's something that you can like play around with as an SP farming meme. Well, if you got Obscuring Bow 8 times, then you can maybe pick up Oath of Judah from the exchange shop if you haven't already put those into Taurus for your weapons. So, just something to consider, you know. But, you know, your account is actually a perfect example of why advising Pardo for the fire team won't work. You have Gilded Libre for your Pardo, and you don't have Turgenev. So suddenly, yes, Pardo can provide utility with SP farming and a little bit of the total damage buffs. But in your case, Hazoodles, Raven will probably just be better than Pardo for your fire team. All right, just really quickly to answer Estrella's question. I feel like if after you get Turgenev, you can kind of buy whatever to your heart's desire. I think unlocking Dea Ancora just to have her and the weapon, it's a bit of an investment commitment, but it might give you more variety for fire stages. I think BKE rank up stamps make sense if you're going to be able to hit a breakpoint. I think Shuijing probably won't be able to provide as much long-term value as unlocking Dea Ancora for collection. I think Shuijing TB would be good. I think Shuijing 3-set would be good. You kind of have to weigh it against like how much you want to play as collection. The only other caveat is that if you do go for Shuijing, you probably won't use it that often if you have a lot of the modern gear, like Cezanne and Paganini. Yeah, and double sleepers teams right now, it's not cost efficient to build. It's fun if it's something that you want to pursue, but it's not cost efficient to build. Hazoodles, do you have any questions for me specifically? How is your Memorial Arena going? And are you at the point where you feel like you need to be studying references and whatnot? I feel like your account is capable of at least 7% right now. You might have to put a little bit of effort to maintain the 7%, because I feel like maybe on a bad week you might be above 7% in the 17% range. Sometimes you can 2%. Okay, well that's great. That means for the most part it's a game knowledge and how much time can you afford for that week issue. So that's comfortable. I wouldn't sweat Memorial Arena as much, and I would definitely focus on Abyss more, just because it affects your crystal income. I think with Memorial Arena, you know, grind it out if you're having fun, and if you're not, then just get the completion rewards and dip out. Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good if you're paying attention to references for Abyss and MA. Just make sure that you also adapt it to your current inventory. And, of course, pay attention what the player that you're looking at as reference, what they're doing, and remember to think a little bit for yourself too. Cross reference against a different reference. Ask questions if you want to see like where your gaps are. Record your runs if you have the capability to do so, and ask other players for opinions where you can shave 1 or 2 seconds off here and there. um I'm definitely not as sharp as I may once have been, a year and a half ago regarding this kind of stuff, but in a broad sense, if Fragile's free, ping him in the Discord. Otherwise, just post your runs in there and ask for a second opinion. You can even check out Honkai official Discord. Like I know we meme on official Discord advice, but every now and then there's a pretty good players in there that'll give relatively accurate advice that you can again cross reference at different times of day or in your other Honkai Discords and stuff. So those are all good ways to improve. And definitely, if you're struggling on a fight and you don't know what you can do, like reread the Valkyrie battle skill, Valkyrie battle suit skills is iffy. I mean, okay, so this is the point. This is the point that I do want to clarify, because yes, we nitpick about different content creators and different players and say like, oh, Marissa's accurate or Marissa's info in this particular card may or may not be as accurate as one of his other info cards, or oh, Xeno's card is wrong. But maybe for different players at their level of play, it might be the right info for them, even if it's wrong. It's what's keeping them playing the game, right? Yeah. So definitely always whatever source of info that you get, whether if it's a tier list or a guide with more nuance than a tier list, an info card that has generalized, gearing plans, definitely get a second opinion that's more tailored specifically to your account. Uh, if you're still having issues on a double S fight, which I don't know if a lot of people still have issues for double S fights. I know your account definitely outgears a lot of what we used to look at as reference for scuffed double S fights. Just be the more that you play around with the gear that you have, and the more that you reread what your stigmata does, what the kind of buffs each individual piece within a set provides, in addition to the two set, the more that you're able as a player to mix and match and think for yourself how you can come up with a way to scale down a high level strat. Yeah, the dormant divine key passives. That was one issue that, even a year and a half ago when we were watching a lot of Keepster's budget guides, right? His budget references. That was one thing that we pointed out, is like, as much as Keepster is scaling down and trying to play it scuffed, there's gonna be a divine key and dorm buff difference that you just can't turn off. You know, even back then, that was one thing that I noticed. Like, yeah, I'm running the same gear as Keepster, and definitely skill difference, because I was a worse player back then. And there were some fights that were just more dodge mechanical heavy. Um, they were just more mechanically intense, and sometimes there was RNG factors that I just didn't want to re-roll for. But then sometimes it was like there was a noticeable difference in dorm buffs, and my damage is a lot lower on account of that. So Hazoodles, definitely keep in mind your dorm buffs and your divine keys. Don't slack off on finishing grinding out your divine keys, because once you finish farming your divine keys, at least the raid divine keys, once you're done with it, you never have to really worry about it again. Yeah, so once you realize the lack and that's something that you decide you want to just commit to farming out, focus on it. It's that it goes back to that pick a direction of what you want to build and build on it, because it is a marathon to catch up on it. But once your divine keys are done farming, you don't have to worry about it again, you know? In the past, back when, temperatures in Abyss were lower and MA was only double S fights, the old budget strat advice was like 4 to 6% dorm, or not 4 to 6% dorm, but 4 to 6% divine keys. We would have just been like, that's fine enough. You can just skate by with that, and you can work on it in the future when you feel like it. But nowadays, I feel like the more long fights that we get into, the more these small bonuses just start adding up, because 4% on a 30-second fight, it's not gonna feel like that much of a difference. It might maybe make like 1 to 5 seconds if we're being dramatic, 1 to 10 seconds if we're being extra generous, 1 to 10 seconds worth of difference. But then if you're looking at a longer triple S fight, you're gonna feel that difference a lot more, And that goes for everybody in the chat if you've got divine keys that haven't been completed. I will say that going into next patch, the Star of Eden banner can be nice, because there is 2 divine keys on that banner. I think Echoes of Paradise is a safe banner as well, since you don't have it, Hazoodles. Sushan Gear is generally safe, but now you're trying to decide against whether you want to go for Sushan Gear, the Divine Key banner, or the Echoes banner, and all 3 are really good for your account. But it is hard to judge which one will give you the most mileage. I personally lean more towards Echoes and the Divine Key banner, just because Echoes right now enables you to do more stuff with Eden and Hersher of Thunder, and Hersher of Thunder with Echoes and Turgenev just gives you really wide coverage. That being said, Sushang definitely will make your ice teams super fun to play. And then finally, of course, divine key buffs are permanent. Once you get them, you just get them, and then you don't have to worry about getting them again. So at the end, you kind of just have to weigh, like, all right, what's your budget? What can you afford, and do you want to top up? Because if you don't want to top up, then so I won't tell you one way or another what you should or shouldn't pull out of those 3 specifically, but I think all 3 are viable picks. And I think firepower supply could be a good way to finish a set that you're missing a single piece on. So firepower supply, I do want to go over that. It is a good way to snipe a particular individual piece, but make sure that you do have a complete set. And it looks like you might be able to with, Zen Yi, Shakespeare Drift, Margrave Poe, and Benares being finished sets, and Silverwing. But I don't remember off the top of my head. You'll just if you have that link for the what's going to be on firepower supply, you can refer back to it. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. I'm sure, Wyvern, Marissa, and the usual bunch will have it published somewhere. Check out your favorite, future content creator of choice for that. Yeah, and of course, as a general reminder for everybody, if you do get off rates, don't just say, "Oh, I don't have that character," and salvage the piece right away. I would definitely hang on to any piece that you don't already own, and any off rates, I would wait on any off-rate duplicates of gear that you already have. I would wait until there's absolutely something that you are urgently needing, because I would rather that you, if it's something that you might need for a future wishing well, I think it's better to hang on to it unlocked for a future wishing well. The only time I would salvage the dupes is like if only if you're within 1 to 2,000 red resonators reach to buying it from the shop. Yeah, I think Utu is a good pick. I think any divine key is a good pick from Firepower for sure. Make sure you play every event if you have the time, and farm out every event shop. Pay attention to your Asterite income, and if you're finding yourself overflowing on advanced skill mats or AE Imaginons, you can always recycle those into Asterite. If you find yourself with a decent stockpile of hyper reactors and titanium barrels, you can trade those out for coins. I do notice that your coins is sub 1 million. So do try to get your coin stockpile up a little bit. You might not be buying affix mats with your coins by converting them into Honkai pieces, but I do feel like having somewhat of a buffer of coins can be useful. Alright, any further questions for me? I think I need to wrap up some stuff on my Honkai account here before the reset. That was all. Okay, excellent. Thank you for sharing your account with us today. Very good work maintaining Red Lotus, and every now and then 2%, right? 355 days played. Low budget. Feels good. Yeah. Yeah. I'd say save up crystals for the next set of support gears, or the next major spending event. I think 6.4 might be a good chance for you to pick up a new battle suit. But in the meantime, I probably wouldn't go back to older battle suits to go out of your way to build fully with signature gear. But I think as long as it's a battle suit that you have the weapon for, I think building their scuff gear might be okay. All right. Thank you. And that concludes Hazoodles' account review.